Hey guys, Attorney Walter Hnot. Now, here's the thing. I know I'm a little bit late, and I'm always late, and I totally get that. I just got out of the shower in preparation for this thing. Now, let me go ahead and see if there's anybody that's shocked I'm a little bit late. I see one face. You're new, so you don't count. But that's okay. We're going to keep rolling. Here's what you need to know. I've spent time going through historically what happens essentially to those who are disabled and elderly and retired throughout periods in which case there is a big, big war. So specifically, we look at World War One, we look at World War Two, etc. Now, with that said, howdy, guys. With that said, what you need to know is this. I've started to question and wonder essentially what happens to those who are retired, to those who are disabled in a World War III scenario. And I'm going to give you a little script on it. And I think it's interesting. I think it's really going to grow your mind. Now, here is the basic idea. There are three options for how the disabled will be treated during a World War III in potentially 2023. All countries will treat their disabled, and to some degree they're retired, along these three lines. You know, I always get right to the point, so here are the three. But first, remember, like, subscribe, and leave 5-star reviews. If you guys could leave 5-star reviews, I always appreciate it. It helps me compete against the mega big box firms. There it is, right in the chat section. All right, so let's get right to it. There's basically three things that occur to the disabled and retired during wartime, okay? They are either left alone, put to work, or euthanized. There are fade-together points of these three, but through history, the disabled and the elderly have been put to the back of the line for treatment during a war, unless they are, treatment, unless they are related to the military in some way. Now, here's the idea behind that. VA troops tend to be treated better as a result of their service. If you have disabled military soldiers becoming homeless and telling everyone at home that they should never sign up for the military, then you have what's called an enlistment problem for future generations. And they don't want that. They want more people enlisting into the military. Now, Russia, who is the showcase with Ukraine, is likely in a full-out war going to face food shortages, and their social programs will be reduced in size. Russia is also known for having work programs that ended in death throughout their history. Okay, now Russia is also known in this sense, of being on the right side of history when it comes to World War II. However, the great rape and atrocities against the German women of World War II at the very end are absolutely horrific and rarely discussed. They're only now, over the past 5 years, coming out with full History Channel reviews, Discovery Channel reviews, and the historical societies are pushing to show people what happened. Now, with that said, Russia, in some ways, basically created minority-based work camps that ended with mass murders. And this is not uncommon to essentially the World War II activities of Hitler. The difference is Germany lost and Russia won at the end of World War II. So my belief is that if a World War III were to happen, the disabled and the elderly would likely be forced, if near a factory, to do work-related activities. And if their cost-to-benefit ratio was too low, okay, then likely euthanized, because it would scare the other disabled and elderly persons to work harder as to stay alive. For example, if a retired person, with Russia's type of retirement, were to say that they couldn't do the work anymore, and Russia just let them go home and remain retired, then it would send a message to other people, right, that basically, if these people went home, but, Russia would have to then let other people go home, because if they said, hey, you could go ahead and just go home and relax, people would. They would take that opportunity. But Russia wouldn't have that opportunity because they'd want people to work. They would put them to work as a result of the fear of potentially being euthanized. Then people would obviously work for the rest of their life or that war. Thank you, Smeagol, for the $5 donation. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Now, this sounds familiar to work sets, you free ideas. And these ideas are known through the slogans of two absolutely horrific places on earth, known as Auschwitz and Dachau. And just if you guys don't know, obviously I come from a Jewish mom, Jewish background, but the bottom line here is I want you to understand that throughout history, the idea of work sets you free has usually been to some degree a lie. In the modern capitalist society we have, even that's going through its turbulent moments where the more you work, the more benefit you don't seem to receive. So it's just this thing throughout history of promise with no outcome of benefit. Okay. In contrast, you have America, which has had its work camps and holding areas through slavery, Native American mass killings, and along with World War II, Japanese internment camps under Roosevelt's Executive Order 9066. I'm still waiting for the Star Wars fans to realize the connection between Roosevelt's order and the Emperor. And it's not just because of the number designation. Okay. Now, my expectation is that America for the disabled and retired would just continue because there's these funds that were already paid in. It's set up through the bonds and continuously paid, right? Should be fine, should be good. However, there will likely be incentivized additional options for those who are disabled to enter into ticket to work programs with any war-related company. And it's possible the retired would not be taxed on their retirement benefits if they went back to work, right? You know, the things to entice the disabled and the retired to work during these tough times. Which is kind of weird, right? Because if you already paid for your retirement benefits by paying taxes, right, to essentially fund them, then why are you being potentially taxed on them again if you already paid taxes to have them, the retirement benefits, and in some cases, the disability benefits, SSDI benefits? Seems like another way that politicians have escaped an audit and found a way to hyperfund with $500 billion, whatever plan they want to go ahead and spend money on down the road. Now, here's the problem with that. When we look at essentially retirement benefits and disability benefits, the USA has strategically and continuously over the history had a major advantage, both in industrial strength, nautical force, and technology during World War II. We were the big bad, and we've been the big bad for a long time. We really don't have that major gap between us and our competing countries now. Sure, we have the nicest weapons, but China is right on our tail with approaching similar products of death. Russia has some catching up to do technologically, but this war with Ukraine, you know, where they basically got to go and throw wave after wave of their military gear, their old gear, against an inferior military country. It sets Russia up to basically be a war machine replacement, industry. As a result of this, America will put its new woke identity to the test. Not saying woke is bad, there's a lot of good things to it, but it's going to put it to the test. America is known for producing war movies with heroes who won't fire a gun. America is becoming more and more anti-gun by generation after generation, not having any training with firearms and voting based on what the news tells them. For this reason, America is turning into a more and more dangerous place, as fewer generations of Americans have access to growing up on farms, knowing weaponry in their studies, and including battles in their history knowledge. As a result, every time we lose some function of understanding war with the next generation, right, America is more likely to have less citizens with firearms as a ratio, more firearm law restrictions, and fewer applicants into the military. Think about this. If America is less of a war-ready machine who suffers the result of this, well, it's obviously the disabled and the retired, and I'll tell you why. If America enters into World War III, that will be very costly. What weight of that cost will be placed on the shoulders of the retired and the disabled? Have we reached a tipping point where the volunteer military force is no longer viable because people don't want to join? Whether for the woke reasons or any other reason. It's dangerous to join the military. Seriously, guys, and you can't blame the whole woke identity too with this. There's a lot of other options out there, but I understand where people see how the younger minds are going with things. They're not investing into the potential of learning and understanding violence. Now, a lot of people are saying, and I know there will be somebody who will come at me with some sort of specification that essentially those in the military, people are signing up left and right. It's amazing, et cetera, et cetera. Real quick article, and then we're going to get right past this. Every branch of the U.S. military is struggling to make its 2022 recruiting goals, officials say. With a record low number of Americans eligible to serve and few of those willing to do it, this is the year we question the sustainability of an all-volunteer force. This is specifically from an article by Courtney Cube and Molly Boygan, June 27th, 2022, 4:30 a.m. published. So the point of that is that we have a problem. America is changing over from the cowboys with guns to essentially a very, let's call it a very liberal mentality towards potential violence. Okay, it is what it is, right? That equates to fewer numbers going into the military. Now, what I have noticed historically is that countries who suffer volunteers change two main aspects. One being the benefits that are offered during and after the service, and two, whether or not military attendance is voluntary, right? So they're gonna make it so that more people want to get benefits, and they get benefits during service and after service. They increase those, and then they also look at, if it gets really bad, whether or not voluntary attendance into the military is going to be used going forward. Instead, they switch it to non-voluntary, meaning you have to serve so many years, right? As a result of this, I ask you the question, how would America fare against a World War III against Russia and China? And as a result of this, what impact, based on the three options, do you feel Americans with disabilities and the elderly face, right? And just to go back to those three options real quick, what happens to the elderly and the disabled? Are they left alone? Are they put to work, or are they euthanized, right? That's historically what happens. Now, with all that said, here are some examples of things deteriorating for the Social Security Disability and Retirement Program for those who might experience some program degradation. First, health insurance capability reduction might happen. Then benefit reduction, work benefit opportunities, work benefit requirements might go into play, right? And the list goes on until you reach basically that horrible Hitler status, or even some of the historic leaders of Russia and what they did. Now, this all seems implausible for you, and it seems implausible for me that America would ever go into this sort of downward spiral. I would like to point out one thing, though, about how George Bush quasi-borrowed around $708 billion from the Social Security bond market, of which some was spent to fund the Iraq War. That was a war where we were superior with technology, military force, numbers in general, and the transportation capabilities unmatched by any nation. Remember how you felt at the beginning of this, like your retirement benefits would always be safe, even though I was one of the first channels to report on the deficit within the next 10 years? Remember how you thought that a war couldn't change your Social Security benefits? Let me give you a brief history on the reality of these things. Now, as a side note, some people will scream into the comments that shame on me for scaring people potentially. Let me explain something about the disabled and the retired. These are people who go through more shit than the regular average person. They do. It's just the truth of it. That's how it works, okay? They deserve to get a heads up. They deserve time to prepare. They deserve questions to be brought up and ideas to be developed. They are my friends, and they deserve whatever knowledge I can pull together. If this scares you, which it will scare some of you, and you feel that fear is too great a weight to carry for the disabled and the elderly, please consider the following. You do not take a particularly fragile group and throw them directly into the fire. If their world must heat up, we find ways to reduce the heat, block the heat, and if necessary, fight the heat. You only do this accurately by sweating during the good times so that you bleed less during the bad times. I wish for the disabled and the retired to be more successful during the bad times. And if we buy snow shovels today, hopefully the great storm will never come. Now, for the examples in history, to give you some ideas as to the problems we are currently facing. As you know, something you should understand about how many people are in the military. First off, and I want to go ahead and start with Russia. Russia has about 400,000 professional contract soldiers, and it's 900,000 strong active armed forces. Okay, 400,000 to 900,000 ratio. The United States has about 1.4 million active duty and around 850,000 reserve and guard. So 1.4, 850,000 against Russia's 400,000, 900,000. Okay, well, I flipped those around. So 900,000, 400,000. China has 2.8 million soldiers. By far the world's largest military, soldiers, sailors, and airmen. Twice the American number. Just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. I want to now go ahead and talk about, essentially, historically, what happened to people with disabilities in World War II. The murder of people with disabilities, many Germans did not want to be reminded of individuals who did not measure up to their concept of a master race and were considered unfit or handicapped. People with physical and mental disabilities were viewed as useless to society, a threat of the Aryan genetic purity, and ultimately unworthy of life. And this is specifically from the article of encyclopedia.ushmm.org. This is on basically the murder of people with disabilities, the Holocaust Encyclopedia. The euthanasia program required the cooperation of many German doctors who reviewed the medical files of patients in institutions to determine which individuals with disabilities should be killed. The doctors also supervised the actual killings. Doomed patients were transferred to 6 institutions in Germany and Austria. So there wasn't just Holocaust for my people, the Jewish people. There were also, I guess you would call it an under-the-table euthanasia-style Holocaust against the disabled. And then many of these were elderly as well. Doomed patients were transferred to 6 institutions in Germany and Austria, where they were killed in specially constructed gas chambers. Infants and small children with disabilities were also killed by injection with a deadly dose of drugs or by starvation. The bodies of the victims were burned in large ovens called crematoria. Despite public protests in 1941, the Nazi leadership continued this program and seek it throughout the war. About 200,000 people, 200,000 people in the 1940s era. That's a lot of people with disabilities were murdered between 1940 and 1945. The T4 program became the model for the mass murder of Jews, Roma, Gypsies, and others in camps equipped with gas chambers that the Nazis would open in 1941 and 1942. In other words, the disabled were the first people, citizens of Germany, to be the fundamental prototype for mass murdering against the Gypsies, the Roma, and the Jewish people. A lot of people don't know that. The program also served as a training group for SS members who manned these camps. Key dates: October 1939. Hitler authorized killings of the impaired. Adolf Hitler authorized the beginning of the euthanasia program, the systemic killing of those Germans whom the Nazis deem unworthy of life. The order is backdated to the beginning of the war, September 1st, 1939. At first, the doctors and staff in hospitals are encouraged to neglect patients. Thus, patients die of starvation and disease. And don't forget that, guys. Remember what happened during COVID. The elderly were put on the back burner. Special treatment put on the back burner. Don't forget that. That was America. That was within the past 3 years. That was America. Okay. Thus, patients die of starvation and diseases. Later, groups of consultants visit hospitals and decide who will die. Those patients are sent to various euthanasia killing centers in Greater Germany and killed by lethal injection or in gas chambers. August 3rd, 1941. Catholic bishop denounces euthanasia program. Good job, Catholics. You finally stepped up. By 1941, the supposedly secret euthanasia program is generally known about in Germany. And I say this about Catholics specifically here because the bottom line was back then there weren't as many different variations of Christianity, and back then there were very few groups of Christianity that had extreme power. Catholics, like today, have that extreme power. So to some degree, I say, welcome to the fix of this, but at the same time, thank God they did. Bishop Clemens August Graf von Galen of Munster denounces the killings in a public sermon on August 3rd, 1941. Other public figures and clergy will also raise objections to the killings. This was so strong, so remember that was August 3rd. August 24th, later that month, Hitler officially orders to end the euthanasia killings. Mounting public criticism of the euthanasia killings prompts Adolf Hitler to order the end of the program. Gas chambers in the various euthanasia killing centers are dismantled. By this time, about 70,000 German and Austrian physically or mentally impaired patients have been killed. Although the euthanasia program is officially ended, the killing of physically or mentally impaired people continues in secret in individual cases. That's that side of the world. That's what happened with essentially Germany. But to be fair with you guys, if you study what happened in Russia, not a very friendly place to those who are disabled, to those who are elderly. Next paragraph here, our next document here. This is a document basically created by website blogs.shu.edu, World War II, limited to the able body, posted by Dominique McIndo, July 11th, 1942. The operator of a powered jigsaw, 1942, guys, 1942. The operator of a powered jigsaw cuts a slot in a small steel part for a warplane in Brooklyn, New York factory. Remember when Brooklyn and New York had factories? The slot must be precisely right, and to inspect it, the workman runs his fingers across it. In a Manhattan workshop, a group of men reclaimed tons of aluminum in the form of rivets that were swept from the floors of aircraft factories and shipped to them in barrels. The men sort the rivets into 50 various sizes for reuse in the war. Another war plant, women file and sand bullet dyes. Other operate power sewing machines that turn out heavy canvas aprons and uniforms for the use of army chiefs and the quartermaster corps. These workers have more in common than the fact that they contribute to the war effort. They all have disabilities. Since the U.S. involvement in the war, the disabled have entered the workforce to help towards the war effort. More able-bodied men are entering the military each day at a rate of 10,000 to 30,000. Nearly 300,000 men were inducted in May, which is an all-time high. These increases have posed challenges for the companies that are providing materials to American and allied forces. Remember, it's not just supplying America's needs. We also have to supply those of other NATO nations. That's what we do. We've always done that. In order to combat these labor shortages, the workforce in various fields has expanded to include millions of women, African Americans, immigrants, and most remarkably, the physically and mentally disabled. Employers formerly considered such workers unfit for most jobs. Approximately 3 million disabled men and women, the blind, deaf, physically impaired, and others, are now engaged in the war industry. A survey conducted by the Northwestern National Life Insurance Company shows how the employment of the disabled persons has increased. From 1940 to the end of 1941, disabled employment grew by 50%. From the end of 1941 to May of 1942, disabled employment grew by 300%. This means that the employment of the mentally and physically impaired has risen much more rapidly than the overall employment rate in the country. Think about that. This means that the employment of the mentally and physically impaired has risen much more rapidly than the overall employment rate across the entire country. That's huge. That's massive. This may seem surprising. How can individuals who are missing limbs, cannot see or hear, or are suffering from disorders possibly be essential to the war effort? The answer to that question, consider the example of the deaf woman, who are operating power machines, working in leather and metal trades, and carrying out electrical wiring and assembly. These women have learned sign language, and it contributes to the fast movement of their hands and fingers. Also, because these women have less than 10% of their hearing, which is required to be considered deaf or close to it, they are barely interrupted by external noises and distractions. They possess incredible concentration that leads to thorough execution of their jobs. They go on to talk about other individuals in this article, and it's inspiring. I love that article. It's amazing. If I had more time and didn't have to answer questions, I would read you the entire article because it is amazing. Now, at the beginning of this, you guys were all thinking World War III, not going to happen. It's not going to affect my Social Security benefits. Everything's going to be fine. Nothing bad's going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. Now you see historically that bad things happen. Politicians don't always do the right thing. And the disabled and the retired, if they are able to interact with the workforce, they are brought into the workforce. And the reason why is we won't have enough people. And the reason why is we are going to be competing against a significant armed force. It is literally, again, the NATO versus whatever concoction comes up this time, which will probably be Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, China, Russia, India, and then, of course, the continent of Africa and whichever nations from there want to join in. That's the reality. We are facing a very different scenario for World War III, a significantly worse scenario for World War III. All right, now with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed specifically this information because it is so historically relevant to understanding how your life might be altered by how things around your benefits are occurring. And this could be, applied to many things. A hurricane is coming. There's some sort of electrical outage. What are you going to do? How are you going to prepare? Now, with that said, I'm now going to open up the phone line to go ahead and start taking questions. I can see somebody's already been texting me saying, you told me to call at this time. Awesome. We're doing great. Let's go ahead and basically go ahead and start bringing up these phone calls. I'm going to put the phone number in there so that you guys know which exact phone number to go ahead and call. Also, I hope you guys saw the video today specifically with Jessica on it, talking about which type of videos you guys want her to put at the top of the list to send to me. That's awesome because there's so many things I have to do. I'm in hearings, I'm writing briefs, I'm all over the place. So let's go ahead real quick. Let's take the first call that we can get rolling. We'll call the person and get this thing going. Here we go. The phone is ringing. Let's see if we can get the first person on the phone real quick. The volume is up. We are doing pretty well. Good, good, good. And hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. Remember to use a fake name throughout this process. Real quick, would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you?
Oh, this is Hannah. He told me to call today, but
okay, but yeah, just remember. Yeah, just remember not to use a real name because we are live on YouTube. So, real quick, what legal question can I help you with?
Oh, yeah, this is Hannah. I called you earlier today. About my Social Security. Remember I told you?
Yeah, I remember. Yep. So walk me through it. We're live on YouTube, so go ahead and walk me through. What is the scenario? And remember, we're live so other people can see you. They can understand and hear your question, understand everything. Walk me through specifically what is your legal question and what happened.
Okay. My name is Barbara. I wanted to know what happens if you win a civil lawsuit and Social Security basically wants to cut you off, but Medicaid has taken your money for your civil lawsuit.
So give me a little background on what now. Was this where you won it with basically the judge making a decision, or was this a settlement? What was it?
I won a civil lawsuit where I was discriminated for civil rights against the service dog discrimination, and that I won the case in the settlement, and Medicaid had taken my money. But then Social Security now wants to cut me off because Medicaid has, I guess the IRS contacted them that had a high earning income, but the check was never sent to me.
Oh, okay. So this is a complicated situation. All right. So first and foremost, this was a civil lawsuit where basically you collected a settlement. And just so you know, civil lawsuit settlements are usually considered income by the SSA and the IRS for calculation purposes. The exception to that is like your personal injury type of claims, like where it's like you got injured. Those are not considered a form of income because that's where you're just being made whole because you were injured. But in this case, what happens is they're looking at that as potential income. Now, are you on SSI or SSDI benefits?
I have SSI and SSD. SSI, I get a lot less than SSD.
Okay, so you have a high... Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have SSI, I get $8. And in New York State, I can give you SSP, a supplementary income.
Okay. And
they give me $87 every month.
Wait a minute, SSI gives you 8 and SSDI gives you 80?
No. No. SSD, they give me $880.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right, so bottom line here is you got a little bit of SSI that complements your SSDI to get you around 900.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. So the thing that you've got to keep in mind is that for your SSI benefits, if you have more than $2,000 in the bank, or for SSI and SSDI benefits, if you get more for that month in income, $1,350, then you're not eligible for that month. So how much money?
I never cashed it. I never got the check. It was held by the defense attorney, and Medicaid told him that I had a lien towards the case because they saying that I utilized them to show that I went through stress.
How long ago did the settlement occur?
I'm sorry?
How long ago did the settlement occur? Was this like a month ago? What? How
2
long?
years ago.
2 years
2
ago.
years ago. Yeah,
Why does your defense attorney still have the funds after 2 years?
exactly. So what happened is Medicaid told them that they have to give him back the money, and the defense attorney is not responding to me. And he's not telling me nothing. I've been calling him all last week, and he's not calling me back. And the thing is now, Social Security is telling me that they see I'm a high-profile person, so they contacted me saying that I have an income.
Have you been working anywhere at all over the past 2 years?
No, I have not. Not at all. I don't even have pension.
So you have
I
a
don't have
fraud
anything
situation where you have to go after this attorney. How much money are we talking about here?
$8,000.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
And that's sad. I mean, this is like you got screwed over by an attorney. All right. So
Yes,
couple of
I
things.
was screwed over by my own attorney because actually Medicaid is telling me I owe them $54,000 more.
All right. So
I
okay.
figured because I'm sorry, not to interrupt. I figured because the security is SSI is on the state income, it's due to hardship and everything. I figured that it was the state. So therefore, I basically surrender. I surrender my money to the attorney. Basically, like I don't know what to do because I also have an able account where they're supposed to submit the money there. They didn't. Okay, and then they told me that Medicaid told them that they're going to take them to court if they don't submit the money. So I think the attorney submitted to them, but then I think that because of that, IRS actually saying that I have money. I had money and income, but I didn't. I never got the money.
Wow, this is
I
a
never
cluster.
put my check.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
This is a cluster. I mean, so all right. Let me give you. Do you have a pen and a piece of paper or something to type on?
I'm sorry. I didn't expect this.
Okay, yeah. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. I'll kind of walk you through.
I do.
Okay. So step one, which state did this happen in?
This is in New York State.
All right. Step one, you're going to create a writing of what happened, and you're going to submit it to the New York bar for attorneys, specifying that the attorney kept your settlement funds.
Okay.
And that it was wrongful and that you should have received them. You are going to then take that writing and submit it to the other following groups. Number one, your local IRS center. Number two, the Office of Inspector General, because that's clear fraud.
Inspector what?
The Office of Inspector General.
Okay.
And then basically you're going to take that writing and put it onto a 795, an SSA 795, and send it to your local field office.
A local field Social Security office?
Yeah, so let me grab you what their address is real quick. SSA field office.
Okay. I'm sorry. While you're doing that, I just want to tell you.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we'll have a conversation with them. Today, they called me already twice. Okay.
Okay.
I had a meeting with them in June on the phone, telephone interview.
Yeah.
And she didn't give me the information. She just said that I have a high alert. And then
I bet.
she said that she didn't know what's about. Then she said, everything's all right. Don't worry. You're going to get your Social Security still. So I'm fine. And the thing is, my question is, right now, I'm actually disabled. I'm legally blind.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I have a back. I have a fractured back. I'm immobile, and it's very difficult for me to get all these things done. And it's just these people are just like don't understand that. I was thinking making an appointment with the Social Security and go one-on-one and explain to them what the situation was. I never received a check. I never put it in my bank account, and because the attorney kept the money, and also my other attorney. He should have known that I have a lien with Medicaid, and about $54,000. He should have settled for more. But this is Human Rights Commission.
Why do you have a 50? Yeah, but why do you have a 54K lien from Medicaid?
I know.
But why? Like, well, what do they catch you on to put a lien against you?
This is crazy. crazy. They think that because this is how much it costs for the times that they say that I utilized during the time of the case. Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So, explain to me in a little bit more detail, specifically
Sure.
what's going on with Medicaid to claim. Are you saying that you used that much medical treatment through Medicaid during the months in which you were supposed to be cut off from benefits for receiving this $8,000?
No, during the case, well, before the case, and then when the incident happened,
Okay.
I was also using Medicaid, and my lawyer, Human Rights Commission, utilized that I had pain and suffering part of the case, okay, and punitive damages, and he utilized my therapy session as a shows it as a case to show the evidence that fact it did effectively. It did. It really did. It drove me to PTSD. So basically, I was using my therapist at that time.
Oh, there's so many problems with this claim. There's fraud.
Yeah, it is.
There's corruption.
I think the best thing to do is I appreciate every information you give me so far. Thank you. I think the best thing to do is I need to go to the Human Rights Commission and see what the heck happened about my settlement. He didn't even give me the papers about the settlement papers.
So just to summarize, you need the Florida bar the New York bar to investigate that attorney, and then for them to give that investigation, and they'll do it pretty quickly, over to basically the Office of Inspector General, which is like the attorney on behalf of the SSA. And then from there, the SSA will communicate with Medicaid over what happened. But I'm still a little confused as to this significant Medicaid situation where they're claiming you owe all that money. You sued them to get that reduced, and then you were due $8,000. Like, walk me through that a little bit more.
Okay. I had a lawsuit. I had a situation at a location. I don't want to name it, but let's say I had a location and a restaurant where they discriminated me. And since I had Social Security, I couldn't find any private attorney. And also, because of my disability, because of my civil rights in New York State, they don't really have any person who does service dog discrimination cases. They work on other civil rights cases like police brutality and stuff. So I went to the Human Rights Commission. I submitted my ADA public accommodation complaint, and they provided me an attorney. And this attorney was very sloppy because he had my Medicaid, he had my Medicare, every information, my medical information, and he told me, don't worry about it, you don't have to pay them back. But he lied. And that's another thing I have to explain to the New York State Bar, because the fact that he totally lied, and then when I won the case 2 years later from that date, I find out that like he knew that I had a lien later on, and yet he tricked me to agree with a sum of $8,000,
which is way too low.
Yes, from the lien. Doesn't make sense. And the thing is, honestly, in New York State, if you're sued for service dog discrimination, you get more than that. You get at least $100,000. But I understand it's the Human Rights Commission. This is not a private attorney. But at the same time, I still owe debt. And on top of that, I'm not getting. I'm in more trouble than it is like now. And the thing is, this is wrong.
All right, so let's do this, because this is not. Okay. I mean, this is not something I can fix just on the live.
I know that.
So here's.
I don't want to take time of it, so.
Yeah, because I got to take a couple of calls. But here's the thing. My recommendation is tomorrow. My entire day is completely filled, and then Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. Let's try and catch up next week or Tuesday, and then what I'd like you to do in between now and Tuesday of next week is text me as much as you know about this situation.
Actually, do you have an email? Can you text me an email?
The email is I'll text you. I can't text you right now because we're doing the live show thing, and I can't. Yeah, but the email is WRH.
Actually, I can't write because I told you I'm blind, so it's
Right,
hard.
right. True. Okay.
And then you're on the phone, and I'm on YouTube and stuff. Is it possibly when you have time after the show? Can you just text me your email?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll shoot you a text
You
with
have
the
my
email.
telephone number, right?
Yeah, and then just go ahead and whatchamacallit, go ahead and text me back any and all information that you have so that I can kind of help you out with constructing
Okay.
notification to submit to the Florida Bar in request for essentially review of that attorney. You know the attorney's name, correct?
Yes.
You know both of their names because there's two attorneys?
I could get those information. The thing is, I'm in the middle of process of like putting stuff together, so I didn't know this is going to be coming. I promise you by this weekend I'll do it. Okay?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Work on finding those names though, because I need those names in order to combine with the details. I'll create the complaint notification that you can submit to the New York Bar at that point, and then after that, we'll go to the OIG, submit it to the local FO, and maybe even the. I mean, it depends what they do at that point, but you're definitely going to need the IRS to go ahead and take a review of this because it sounds like somewhere in this, the attorney filed that you received these funds, which is epic fraud. Epic level of fraud, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, they also knew I had an ABLE account, which is a savings account for people who are disabled to put in, before Medicaid and Medicaid and to get it. It's protected by the New York State Controller's Office.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. Why they did that. It's nonsense. It's like everybody is like pretty much like they're not really understand. They want to do a quick pace job. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no. Look, there's a lot of parts to this. There's the part of essentially why were they trying to remove the Medicaid option to begin with? How did they calculate the 54K? Why did the settlement only come to 8K? What were the elements to that situation that equated to a lower amount? Are they proper? Was it fraudulent? Did they coerce you? Were you in a state of duress?
They definitely coerced me.
Yeah. Then we go into basically the attorney then filed that basically he paid to you those funds via his tax return. The IRS reported it and then sent it over to the SSA. The SSA claimed you had that. Now they're trying to kick you off your benefits.
Yeah, and they shouldn't because I never received them out. I surrendered. I surrendered to Medicaid. I thought that
you
was
shouldn't have to surrender them though. Like that's the point. There's so many problems with this. All right, just work on it.
We'll talk more.
Yeah, I'll text you after.
Yeah,
I'll text you the email afterwards. Write me up a good email, as many details as you can put in it, and then we'll catch up next week and then basically figure out because here's the thing: when the New York Bar investigates this person, like they're going to ask for his bank accounts, they're going to ask for details related to the transactional information, they're going to ask for details related to the claim, etc. And when a blind person with a support dog and multiple other impairments, they take particular scrutiny to see if that individual had the capacity to even go ahead and make the decision to settle for that particular amount, whether that was accurate and traditional for that scenario. So they will do an investigation, and they are particularly aggressive. I know down in Florida, when the bar investigates something, it is detailed. So
okay. Thank you so much. I don't want to get time away from the other people who urgently need to speak to you. Thank you so much. I will do my best this weekend to do everything I can. Like I said, I told you I'm legally blind. If I delay a little bit, I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, it's no biggie. Yeah. No worries. I'll catch you. Yeah.
I'm sorry. And one more thing. I'm sorry. One more thing. Tomorrow they're gonna call me. I'm gonna ask him to give me. I'm gonna ask him. I want to see the document that you're claiming. So I should go to the security office and get that, right?
Get a copy of everything because that gets attached
to. It's gonna take 2 weeks.
Yeah, that gets attached to the specific complaint file with the New York Bar. So get any paperwork you can, accounting letters, amounts, transactional records, anything and everything, because ultimately I have to then kind of shape the whole thing so that you can use that to go ahead and submit it to. Yeah, bricks in a wall. Yeah.
We're seeing eye to eye. I understand. Thank you so much. Okay.
Have a wonderful night.
Thank you for caring.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. God bless you.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I love what you were talking about.
Oh, good. It's important. The war stuff is important to me too. Like people don't realize how big of a deal that is. It's huge. So no, thank you. But I'll catch you next week.
It was out of my mouth. I was talking about that 3 weeks ago to my friend.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah. You know.
God bless you for really letting us know to be conscious
Yeah,
and not
absolutely.
ignoring.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
I'll catch you later, and
Okay.
then look out for the text message tonight with the email.
Yes, I will.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a
Bye-bye.
good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Please remember to use a fake name throughout this process. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run hearing questions with you? Oh, are you there? Hello, hello? Speaker.
Yes.
Oh,
Hello.
perfect. I can hear you now. Okay, so walk me through this. How can I help you? Just remember, use a fake name throughout this. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and answer or run hearing questions with you? And just keep in mind, you've got to mute your computer when we do the live, because otherwise it creates an audio loop. So if you just mute your computer, we should be good to go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking my call. My fake name is going to be Sarah, and it's just a real simple question. It's not complicated at all. I'm disabled. I just turned 65, so I've been on Medicare for a number of years already.
Okay.
So I just need to know, once I get to my full retirement age, should it just roll over? I'm born in 1957. I believe I would be 6 and a half when I reach full retirement age. Would it just roll over then from disability to Social Security? And also at this point, because I've already had Medicare for a number of years, I just turned 65, but I qualified for it early because of disability. Would I need to do anything at this point to continue the Medicare without any penalty?
No, I mean you're gonna be transferred directly over to retirement. You're Title II SSDI, right up the Title II retirement benefits. So you're all under the RSDI umbrella. So no, it's a simple. It rolls right over. The only thing,
Medicare too?
yeah, yeah, the Medicare too. So the only thing you have to consider is, because you're on SSDI benefits, when you reach your full retirement age, it automatically brings you over. You don't have the option to take at 70 years old if you wanted to wait with your retirement benefits. So, or with your disability benefits. So just keep in mind, like you are forced to go onto retirement upon transition from SSDI's full retirement age. So basically 65, 66, whenever that is for you, for your full retirement, you'll transition, and it'll be automatic for you for the most part.
Well, I thank you for answering those questions. I wish I could work. I wish so badly I could work. I would love to be able to work.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. Well, sounds good, madam. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Perfect. So what we're going to do is, let me see if there's other individuals here. Hold on. I just want to go ahead and take a moment to text that person my specific email. That way she's got it. She can start working on it. That right up. There we go. Boop. Doop.com. That work. Okay, that's correct. All right, perfect. So let me go ahead and see if there's other people who called in who we did not go ahead and get to talk with. Let me see real quick. Okay, here's another one. We're going to go ahead and call this one real quick, see if we can get through. Let's see what we can do here. Hopefully we'll be able to get through and continue to kind of go through these questions. Let's see what we can do. All right. Second ring, doing okay.
Hello?
Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube right now. Remember to use a fake name throughout this process. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you?
Actually, a specific question.
Perfect, good sir. How can I help you?
Yes. First of all, thanks for what you do, and definitely enjoy all your videos. Very informative. I've been on disability and workman's comp for about the past 6 years. I got injured at a government facility back in 2016.
Okay.
And I took about 2 years to win my case, and I've been on OWCP then, and I just got on with SSDI effective 4/4 of last year.
Okay.
I had another attorney that helped me out get it.
Mm-hmm.
It got denied like everybody else, and we had a hearing set up, and finally he got a call a week before the hearing from the judge who said, look, he's got so many things wrong. This should have been approved a long time ago. Anyway, long story short, it got approved 4/4 of last year, and we tax time this year. They paid me the back pay from, of course, almost a year and a half that it bought to get it. And they said when I called Social Security that my son would have benefits. He was just getting out of school. And she said, you only got a little bit of time, but you can get this money. At first, they told me like 19 grand. That didn't happen. I got from another story from somebody else that was much less. Anyway, so we went to the school, filled out all the paperwork to verify that he was in school at that certain time. He never received one dime, and they used it this past tax season as an offset. With my now I don't pay taxes on my workers' comp that I get, but they tax me at tax time this year for that, and I want to know what can be done about that, and what's going to happen. Does this carry over to what happens at 62? Because I can never get a clear story when you call Social Security. You get different people and a different story from each one.
At 62 years old, you'll go ahead and stay on SSDI benefits until you reach 66 or 67, and then you'll transition onto full retirement. Your Medicare will roll with you. Now, here's the thing with all right, how old is the child?
Well, right now he's getting ready to be 21 in November, but he was, how old was he, Devin? He was 18 at the time for a period of time.
Is he disabled?
No, he was not disabled. They said he could get some kind of child dependent that he would be able to get some money off of my being that I was SSDI. So we never saw a dime of anything. He never received one nickel, but they used that at our tax time this year against us, and we got taxed on it because I was on OWCP, like an offset. So we don't know what to do. Yeah,
I mean, this is a tax gig, which is usually outside of my perimeter, but it sounds like the child might have been eligible for an auxiliary benefit type. And it sounds like there's only one child. There's only one child, right?
Yeah, that was eligible. The other one's already moved out.
Too old. Okay, yeah. I'm not sure what the tax situation would be with this because that's outside of what I normally deal with. I always send the tax questions over to a tax attorney. Can you do me a favor and email me specifically that question? And once I have that question, I get a chance, I'll go ahead and see if I can look it up and see what happened, because this isn't as easy as like you got taxed on your back pay because you had other income during that year. This is more of like how did auxiliary benefits fit into this? How did they do an offset as a result of them? And were they actually paid, and who received them? And if they weren't received, why are you still getting taxed for them? Or an offset occurring because of them? Okay. Yeah, let me give you the email real quick. WRH@disabilityresolution.com. Again, WRH@disabilityresolution.com. Send me just a quick write-up on it, something that's easy, summarized, so I can kind of see it. And then if I can't figure it out based off of some quick review, I'll send it over to a tax person and see if they have a potential answer as well.
Okay. Now, is collecting OWCP besides this, if something should happen where I were to go back to work or had to go back to work or whatever, like they're trying to do now, but I am disabled. I got more doctors saying that I'm disabled. I shouldn't be working than I do. Of course, when I got my second opinions, they're all saying, oh, yeah, you can go back to work because, that's their gravy. So we're fighting that now. But if something should happen, what happens to my Social Security? Would that mess that all up, the SSDI and everything?
There's usually an offset that basically happens with, OWCP-based compensation. So just to my understanding, let me see if I can find it real quick on here.
Okay.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can find specifically the notations on it. Because I think it was like an 80% split or something, where you can only receive, all right, hold on, let me see what this says. Yeah, so you can only receive 80% of your pay from both benefits combined. That's your offset between the two benefits. but you can receive the OWCP, federal workers' compensation, and Social Security at the same time. Remember, you do have to watch out for the potential of that SGA option too if you start working again for SSDI benefits. So just watch out for that $1,350. But keep in mind, you have your 9-month trial work period. You got your 36-month extended eligibility program, and then if you wanted to, you could always take it to work it and basically continue forward.
Right.
So what is the goal?
I doubt I will be.
Yeah, what's your goal though? Oh, sorry about that, good sir. What's your goal though? Like, walk me through what you think is the most likely thing to occur.
Well, I doubt I'm going back to work. I mean, I got an advocate that's fighting for me with me, and I've got different doctors, psychiatrists, orthopedic surgeons. I got different people I'm seeing. It's like how did you see these doctors monthly, and they send you to a second opinion, and of course they're going to say, oh yeah, you can go back to work. So it's confusing, but that's the way it is. That's what they do.
So what I'm hearing is that you are fearful of losing a benefit, a cessation of benefits, because of these CE type doctors from whichever program they come from saying you're no longer disabled.
Right, correct. And being I'm 61, and the list that I had, stuff if I got wrong with me, it's like 18 different things wrong, from all through my spine, rotator cuffs, etc. And that's what the judge said. And what's chance of me having a CDR also?
At 61, you could still have them. It used to be a couple of years ago that they would stop at 58. Now they're continuing all the way up to 62. After 62, they're extremely rare. I mean, I just had one in the homeless office yesterday who's getting one at 65. But if you combine essentially the disability benefits, SSDI benefits, and crack cocaine, heroin, and some sloppy criminal activity, that happens, but this doesn't sound like your scenario. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was my question. I'll get off here so other people have a chance to get on, and I'll email you and just repeat kind of what I said in the beginning. Correct?
Perfect. That's wonderful, good sir. Send it over, and then if I get a chance, I'll make a video out of the answer of it. That way people have it. But that's a really good question. And most people don't know about the OWCP and what it actually is. So I might do a video specifically on that as well.
Yeah, that'd be great, because that's it's helpful. It's another nightmare, but
yeah.
Okay.
Well, excellent, good sir. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You too, Walter. Thanks a lot for everything.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
So that's actually a really good point. Because from this show, I usually get questions. Sometimes they're Social Security specific. The toughies are always how different federal, state, county programs come together. And some of the worst ones are those tri-state ones. Oh, when it comes to those like special programs in the tri-state that come before everything was set up under Title II, those are just like, why? Or especially the police stuff or the railroad stuff. The only way to get a fair answer is to read the actual thing that you signed 1,000 years ago. So anyways, guys, let me see. We've got one more call we're going to go ahead and do. Then we're going to reach out to the security expert and get an update specifically on that. Let me go ahead and get this real quick. Here we go. I'm going to click the button and click the speaker on. Here we go. And let me see. Oh, no, is it working? I'm not sure if it's working. Hold on. Let me try this real quick. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. Can you hear me okay? All right, let me try recalling that person. 1 segunda. Because, sometimes like I'll call and they'll call, and then Sweetie will come over with her big waggly tail. Let me see.
Hello?
Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to run some hearing questions with you?
Actually, I have a very specific question.
Sure, absolutely.
I have been on Social Security disability for about 7 years now. I'm 56 years old. I live in New York State, and I also receive SSI. I was married for 25 years, but he decided to not be married no more, so made me eligible. My income obviously dropped and made me eligible for SSI. And I had to file a bankruptcy in there, so my income is basically just what I get now. We have an adult child who's in her 30s, so there's no child support or anything like that.
Mhm.
My question is this. With the money I receive, it comes out to approximately $940 a month.
Okay.
That's everything. SSI, SSDI, SSA, and they also give me, it's an extra benefit it's called extra help. And SSP is by it on my statement.
Uh-huh.
So it comes out to about $940. And I know that's under the limit, the gainful, your employment limit.
Mhm.
I don't know the correct term for it. Now, because it's under that, could I potentially work from home thing and without going back to work, without going into the back to work program, just to get enough money to live?
All right. So for SSI, you don't get the 9-month trial work period. So just keep in mind you're going to hurt some of your SSI benefits there if you try to do that. With SSI, the rule is for every $2 you earn over $85, they take away $1 from your SSI benefits. So how much of the SSI benefits per month do you actually receive?
It's most of it. I did have enough work credits, but I only work part-time.
So yeah, so you got a low quarters of coverage, low yield. So, all right. So if SSI is the majority, you can work, but you're not going to be able to earn that much.
It's like $754 is my SSI.
Yeah. So this is a tricky situation. So for SSI, you don't have the traditional try to work period or extended eligibility period. You do have the ticket to work option. So your best shot. And how old did you say you were?
I'm 56.
So your best shot is going to be a ticket to work scenario where you basically sign up 5 years, keep your benefits, keep your SSI, SSDI, and then your transitional period to essentially retirement. I would contact the local field office and ask them to send you a ticket to work contract because that's going to be your best shot since your majority of funds are SSI Title 16. And I would look into signing up on one of those so that you have kind of a 5-year, because let's call it like it is. You need 5 years to get to the next step,
Yeah.
So I would go ahead and basically contact essentially the local field office and ask them about getting a ticket to work program contract or at least a template of it so that you can review it and see if it's something you'd like to do.
Okay. There's just no way I could earn a little just to make it to that amount because I don't want to go over that.
You could earn. Yeah, you could earn like $85 without it hurting you. You could earn a little bit more than that or reduce your benefits a bit. But remember, you're limited by $1,350. And you also, if you earn like over a certain amount, over $900 and change, you basically, trigger the trial to work or the trial work period month. So you might use up those. But if your SSDI benefits are just like $100, that's not the scary part. The scary part is losing the SSI benefits. And every $2 you earn over $85 for that, they reduce it by $1. They reduce your benefits by $1. So you'd literally be earning to reduce your SSI benefits. But if you go on a ticket to work program, you get to keep rolling, receiving your SSI, your SSDI benefits, and the additionals without losing them and while keeping the income from your working.
And that would keep my Medicare and Medicaid too, correct?
Yeah, you'd be able to continue with them.
All right. Thank you so much. You've answered my question.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Perfect, guys. So what I'm going to do is let me just go back here. We did miss one person who called in. Let me see right here. Oh, man, we missed a bunch. We missed a silly amount. Oh, my goodness. All right, let me just do like one or two more. I don't know if they're going to be quick, but let me just do one or two more. See if we get them. If we don't get them, we'll just go to the security expert. Let me see if we can get them on the phone, because I know that people literally wait all week to.
Please leave your message for.
Oh God, I don't want that to say the name. I don't want it to say the name. All right, so let me go back to here. Let me get another one right here. Boop, boop. All right, this is the last one we're going to try calling. Then we're going to go to the security expert. Give me a little bit of a break, and then I get to learn what's going on in the world with security updates. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Remember to use a fake name throughout this. Would you like me to answer a specific question, or would you like me to go ahead and basically run hearing questions with you?
Yeah, I have a specific question. I've got a little bit of a mess. 2 months ago, Social Security asked me to go back 3 years and show them my income. And I had worked, but I was on a work that I started,
Okay.
and I needed a surgery. So I got off, and then I played Santa Claus. So I did a December thing. So they sent me back. I sent them all the thing. They're happy and everything. And then they sent me paperwork, and they said, well, you're in an extended work period. And I said, no. They said, well, you had a trial work period. It ended in 2008. And I said, and they said, well, you get 36 months after that. And I'm like, well, that's 2011. So you've been paying me benefits for 11 years that I don't deserve them. And that's where I'm at, you know.
So were you ever at any point actually in a ticket to work program where you contracted for the 5 years with the regional field office?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I had a ticket to work, or a trial work period that started in 2007 that I didn't work the 9 months.
Okay, wait. So a ticket to work is different than a trial work period. A ticket to work program.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A trial work period. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trial work period back in 2007. I never had a ticket to work.
2007. All right. So the bottom line is you get 9 months, then you go to the extended work period, where if you earn under the 1,350, you get to keep your benefits. If you go over it, you lose your benefits. So you got 2007. You finished that up into 2008. Then you had basically 3 years from there. That puts you into 2009, 10, 11-ish. So what happened? Like, give me the timeline as to where the issue of overpayment is, because I'm guessing this is an overpayment.
Well, they're still paying me, and they said they're sending me a check on August 3rd. And I'm like, from what you just told me, I'm in trouble. You know, I mean, I didn't tell them that. I just said thanks. But the lady told me crazy stuff, like she says, oh, you can only be on SSDI for 13 years. Well, it actually took me 10 years to get approval.
No, you can be on SSDI benefits for, your entire life until you hit your full retirement. Retirement obviously lasts your entire life, but help me. What is?
I don't know that she totally knows what she's talking about. You know what I mean? But it scares me to no end. If what she's saying is true, then my problem is that I've been paid 11 years worth of benefits that I may not have been entitled to.
So what you're saying is you worked from that 2011 period where your extended work period should have ended, all the way to the current day. What were you earning per month during most of those months in which you were working?
Oh, after 2008, pretty much nothing. I had a couple of years where maybe I averaged 200 a month or something, but most years it was zero. And then in 2018, I worked and I made, I was aware of the situation, and I talked to, actually at that time I was in Nevada, and they said, you're eligible to do another trial work period. And I said, great. So I went ahead and I did it, and I didn't go over in any of those months.
Right.
And that's where I thought I was at. But then this letter seems like that's not what they think.
Okay. So, and here's what I'm getting at here. If you didn't work since 2008 and you just continue to receive your SSDI benefits, then you were not, if you're not working and pulling in funds, and maybe you did a couple of months, right? Maybe you did some trial work months, then if you're not working thereafter, the bottom line is you wouldn't have even have needed to use your 36-month extended period of eligibility. So the bottom line here is you would just continue to receive your benefits, but you did have a blanket program that protected you for 9 months, no matter what you earned. And then the extended eligibility were the 36 months thereafter, where if you earned over 1,350, you would lose your benefits. But if you earned under it, you get to keep your benefits and the money. So you sound okay because you weren't earning any money during all those years.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be okay. You should be fine.
Like now they're saying, yeah, I mean, it freaked me out because they're saying, well, you're in an extended work period. And then she told me, she said, well, it only lasts 36 months. And I looked at her like, I'm a little better at math than that.
Yeah, no, you should be fine. They only apply that if you're going to be, basically working and earning under the $1,350, but you haven't been working and earning, so that program would not apply to you. And even if that program did apply to you, if that program ended after the 3 years, putting you into 2011, then at that point, you would still be able to receive your benefits so long as you did not violate the SGA principles. I mean, they'd still take away certain funds and stuff, but as long as you didn't violate your SGA element 1 of the 5-step sequential, then you would be fine. So you're good. You're okay.
Okay, yeah, because my head was swimming.
Yeah. No worry. You're okay.
Like, oh my God.
You're fine. Yeah. No, you're. I get where the math scared you a little bit, and what she said obviously seemed not right. I get that, but no, you are fine. You keep being disabled and do your thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, like this year, I have an opportunity to be Santa again, but it'll be for 2 months. What do I do to keep myself out of trouble, or do I just say forget it and don't do? I mean, it's an okay amount of money. I'll make about $5,200 between November and December. So I thought, oh, that's a nice gig.
Worst case scenario, you'll be ineligible for 2 months, but they might be able to apply, because remember, every 5 years they reinstate that trial work period. So, if you haven't used up any of your, if you still have some months left over, right, which you probably do, because every 5 years it reamps, you might, if not extended eligibility, they might be covered under the trial work period. And if they're not, if you spread it out over 3 months, you should be okay for extended eligibility. And well, no, you'd still have too much over. But worst thing that could happen is you lose your benefits for 2 months. Best thing that you could do would probably have those payments be spread out over a 6-month period.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this company, they'll pay me as an employee only because I'm in the state of California.
Right.
And so before I was working for an entertainment company that was willing to say, okay, I'll spread out your payment.
Right.
If necessary.
Right.
But okay. All right. Well, thanks. What about, I'm kind of bored out of my mind. My daughter's grown up now and everything. Would it be, I was thinking about like a customer service job where I work, 10 hours a week or something. Is that stupid? Is that it would keep me under the 1,350 for sure. What
I would do is contact the SSA and ask them specifically how many months of your trial work period you have left and how many months of your extended work period do you have left, extended eligibility period. And then based off of that, essentially apply them as appropriate. The other thing, though, that I want to make clear here is that if you want to work for an extended period, trial work period is going to be, ticket to work is going to be the only program that's going to make you happy. Because if you want to earn a lot, still receive your benefits, and have the SSA kind of keep you within a contract to allow it all and not go through essentially a cessation, CDR situation, then you got to be in a ticket to work program.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I think I understand.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. You have a wonderful night.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, good sir. Have a wonderful night.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So I'm going to call real quick, basically our security person, because I want to get an update as to what's going on. For those of you who don't know the channel that well, every Thursday we go live, and then I bring a professional on at the end of it, and they will give us an update pertaining to their particular field. Sometimes we have more professionals. Next week, I'm going to basically try to have a gaming professional and also a vocational expert professional explain kind of what's going on in the fields related to this. Smeagol, thank you for the $5 donation. Always appreciate it. Let me go ahead and call our security expert real quick. Let me see if I can get him on the phone. And then hopefully we can get a security update as to what's going on, because it's especially relevant to this video as a whole, because the whole point of this video was about World War III and specifically how that interacts with the retired and the disabled. So,
Jacob, here to show up, taking up to final cell. They jump in 7 seconds. Final set will be Astra 2 Delta, encryption level 4, please. 3, 2, 1, verification. We have lock. Thank you, Raymond. Cheers, shop. Greetings to you, Walter.
Howdy, good sir.
CJ Lewis here, reporting on global matters impacting our clients and providing the most accurate info. The health and safety of their organizational decision-making and their personnel. For those who are here first time, our organization comprises subject matter experts working in concert with our staff globally. Team members provide eyewitness accounts, documentation, supported video is vetted and verified before submission for review. Once received, it's validated, re-researched using proprietary software programs, including AI, artificial intelligence, and assists us in finding a valid rating to our end results, potential reporting for clients and others like yourself. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. So I thought the video today really matched up with kind of an introduction to what you guys are going to talk about, because it was about World War III, how the disabled and retired are usually treated during those periods. I wanted to go ahead and explain how America has not always been an angel with treating the disabled or retired through history, and how Russia has been even less of an angel, and how basically Germany in World War II was the ultimate not an angel. They were the official definition of the devil. But good sir, what's going on with the security of the world specifically? There's a lot going on right now. Walk me through it. Help me out. What's going on?
So I think last week we got to some of the questions and some of the shops that had validated for us some suggestions on directions people should take it this time in regards to an event of everything from a catastrophic weather event to a citywide or regional-wide episode that impacts the lifestyle or their ability to stay where they're at. I think we did a reasonable job with that. We're on day 154 or 155, depending on your global location, to the Russian military attack upon Ukraine. And what we focused on this week are some of the more important developments that we feel will potentially change the war. A lot of it had to do with equipment, which is suddenly coming back into a decision by NATO allies and supporters of Ukraine and some of the countries that border Ukraine that have been handling some of the refugees, that they recognize this war is far from over, and when they see it extend into the end of the year, if not beginning of next year, unless something very dramatic occurs. Slovakia is sending 11 MiG fighter jets to Ukraine. Slovakia is a neighboring country state, if you will, to Czech Republic, and they've already negotiated to defend the Slovakia airspace. Previously, they were the same country, but now we're two independent countries, but maintain a close relationship. For those who aren't familiar, back in January of '93, Czechoslovakia, split into two independent states, Czech Republic and Slovakia, and this was known as the Velvet Divorce. And the reason why it was called that, also known as the Velvet Revolution, due to its peaceful and fairly negotiated nature of how they broke up. But back to the hardware issue here, Slovakia is sending 11 MiG fighters to Ukraine, and that's a really big deal. That's a really big deal for defending the airspace and taking other airships on, hostile airships. At the same time, just in the last 48 hours, the United States aircraft carrier group, the USS Ronald Reagan, and its escort ships capable of
anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems left Singapore in the last 42 hours and was sailing northwest towards Taiwan. And we've talked about this previously as far as the Straits of Taiwan and the areas with China making moves and how difficult it's become. But then we also see it as a show of naval support for Taiwan and the surrounding waters that we keep chasing the Chinese ships through the straits with. Taiwan does have their own air and naval fleet, and they're fairly high speed, and we'll come back to them in just a minute. We have video from one of our European teams displaying the HIMARS, that's the mobile multi-launch systems, en route across the highways in Europe to Ukraine. As we reported last week, there are currently 12 HIMARS systems in Ukraine, and very recently they were used to destroy Russian ammo depots and Russian command centers just in the last 36 hours. So we have fresh video from that in the Russian territory of Kharkov, also known as Gorlikov in the Kharkiv Donbass region. But the rockets from the HIMARS struck and destroyed these ammunition depots and command centers with 100% validation. We also have something a little interesting that just came up. The United States Air Force Europe and African Command stated yesterday that 6 American F-22 Raptor combat jets have been sent to Poland under NATO's air shielding program. The U.S. planes coming to Poland are from the 90th Fighter Squadron stationed out of Elmendorf Richardson Air Base in Alaska. The stealth tactical fighters are made Lockheed Martin and Boeing, and they'll be based at the Alaska Air Base in central Poland. These Raptors landed already in UK, and they're supporting this NATO's air shielding mission in Europe. NATO will add other missile defense assets along the alliance's eastern border to guard against any potential threats derived from Russia. Full-scale invasion of Ukraine, or U.S. Air Force and NATO officials all got on board. So in case Russia goes full-scale. So we reached out, and we were able to, in speaking with German Brigade General Christopher Paulette, Deputy Chief of Staff Operations at NATO Allied Air Command, Germany, this strategy called air shielding. Air shielding is an expression coined just last month at the meeting of NATO leaders in Madrid. The idea is to deter and shield against any possible Russian aggression, he had said, and going beyond what NATO already has employed on the eastern flank since the February 24th invasion. It added that the mission groups, allied anti-aircraft and anti-missile units, their NATO command is intended to create an almost instant and constant the Baltic and Black Seas, which is one of the new objectives we spoke about when we reviewed the NATO summit in Madrid. Additional assets will be deployed, he stated to us, 4 to 6 months at a time, shoring up an area from Turkey to the Baltic Seas. And, well, he was also there with Major General Joel Carey, United States Air Forces in Europe, the Air Force's Africa Director of Operations and Strategic Deterrence and Nuclear Integration. And Major General Carey indicated the partners will, quote unquote, both air and ground-based air defense assets, and they supported enablers needed for rotational forces. And they won't go into detail on the additional number of troops for the forces, but they would continue to rotate them through. Earlier this month, Air Force F-35s deployed, sent them to the air base in Germany. They were sent to Amari Air Base in Estonia. And beyond traditional air policing patrols, Brigadier General Paulette indicated they would be able to react, quote unquote, on a very short notice from multiple locations in the Estonia-Baltic region. Again, some ground air forces have been deployed as well, but he's not letting on. He did add, though, there is no indication, repeat, no indication. Russia intends to attack NATO territory anytime soon. But the step up in missiles, drones, and combat aircraft near the border of NATO countries increases the chances of a miscalculation or loss of guidance or control. We're currently in a shield position. If a miscalculation occurs, we want to intercept, interrogate, and escort the aircraft out of NATO airspace. He said the war in Ukraine has brought back, quote unquote, brought back the sense of unity, the alliance, and helps us elevate to a new level, helps us to challenge any threat that we might see in NATO. So collectively, it seems like a lot of progress here. The fifth item regarding this is Germany approved the sale of 100 Panzer Halbert 155 millimeter self-propelled, as opposed to truck-mounted, howitzer artillery systems. The howitzers will reportedly worth $1.7 billion purchase. Comes down to about $17.2 million per howitzer, and are considered the most powerful artillery systems currently deployed in the world. So again, now we have Poland involved, we have Germany involved, we have the United States involved, and it just kind of, the equipment is starting to roll. The HIMARS, we have, last week we spoke about Secretary of Defense Austin indicating 4 more HIMARS are heading to Ukraine, which will bring the total to 16. And the accuracy, as we've seen just the past week, with the Russian depot, ammunition depot, as well as the command center being struck, really incredible. Just really incredible. I do have 2 bonus items for you.
Okay.
Just completed in the last 90 minutes or so.
Wow.
The U.S. and Chinese leaders have, quote unquote, warned each other over Taiwan during a phone call that lasted a little bit more than 2 hours. United States President Joe Biden told his Chinese counterpart, Tsai Ing-wen, that the U.S. strongly opposes any unilateral moves to change the island's status. Mm-hmm. The president also added that the United States policy on Taiwan has not changed. Beijing had told Mr. Biden to abide by the One China principle, warning him that, quote, whoever plays with fire will get burnt, end quote. I wonder how that translated. Sorry, didn't mean that. That was a direct quote.
Yeah.
Tensions over the issue have increased ahead of a rumored plan for United States House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi to visit Taiwan. State Department says Ms. Pelosi has not announced any travel, but China has warned of, quote unquote, serious consequences and will take strong measures, end quote, if she were to proceed with such a visit. I think last week we touched on it, but we didn't have any validation that was shied away from on many levels, as the Speaker of the House Speaker of Representatives, is preparing to make trips. It was unknown how she was planning on traveling. Last week, President Biden told reporters the military thinks it's not a good idea. His White House has called Chinese rhetoric, again, any such trip, clearly unhelpful and not necessary. For those who are unsure who Speaker Pelosi is, real briefly, she would be the highest ranking politician behind the president and vice president. So she sits in the 3rd position. She would also be the highest ranking U.S. politician to travel to Taiwan since 1997. We think that is pretty much 100% off the table at this time. Quick global quotes. As we talked about last week with a high validity rating and now at 100%, European Union governments agreed to reduce consumption of natural gas this winter to protect against further supply cuts by Russia as it moves on with its invasion of Ukraine. EU, European Union energy ministers met and approved a draft law intending to lower demand for gas by 15% Their winter is from August through March, which is kind of interesting. Although measures contain exemptions for some countries, we won't get into that right now. The legislation entails voluntary national steps to reduce gas consumption. If they don't yield enough savings, mandatory actions, the 27-member voting bloc would be triggered in the European Union. This is a piece that got the attention of our energy and geopolitical folks. Russian Energy Corporation, Gazprom Energy, said it would cut gas flow through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline to Germany by 20% of capacity starting yesterday.
Wow.
So we've already been aware of Nord Stream 2, which is, and talked about the pipeline that was shut down to Germany that was going around Ukraine prior to the invasion, or right at the startup. Here they're saying the other pipeline that's operational that they've been using, the Russian gas giant said one of the turbines is due for maintenance. An explanation dismissed by German Economy Minister Robert Habeck, who said, as a quote, "It's a farcical story that simply isn't true." So should be interesting as those folks start dealing with significant price hikes in natural gas as well as the cutbacks. Taking us to a different country, something completely off topic that was alarming. People in the southwest Japanese city of Yamaguchi have come under attack from monkeys.
Wow.
They're trying to snatch babies, biting and clawing at flesh, and sneaking into nursery schools. The attacks on 58 people since July 8th are getting so bad that the city hall there hired a special unit to hunt them down and tranquilize them. The monkeys aren't interested in food, so traps haven't worked. They are targeting children and the elderly, as well as the handicapped folks. And city official Masato Sayo reported to us they are so smart, they're sneaking up and attacking from behind, grabbing people from their legs. According to Mr. Sato, the notice went out when confronted by a monkey. Don't look them in the eye, make yourself look big, back away as quietly as possible. All the things that I think we have heard that the people in the mountains talk about with bears and wolves and other animals. Woman was assaulted by a monkey while she was hanging laundry on her veranda. Images show she had bandages. These things are it's just an incredible story, very unusual. They don't know where the animals are coming from. The vet area in Japan is industrialized and urban. It does have an archipelago, mountains and forests, rare attacks on people by bear, boars, or other wildlife have occurred, but not from monkeys. They have no clue where they're coming from. They can't seem to be able to follow them back. And the city official indicated he's never seen anything like it in his entire life. Moving back to the next article of interest. Rare tropical disease found in U.S. soil. And it's for the first time, the United States Center for Disease Control, the CDC, has identified Mississippi dirt and water samples contain a bacteria that causes a rare and fatal disease, which is common in low-income tropical countries. And that's melanoidosis. They also have another name for it, which hopefully it's in this report. It's soil and water. There were two unrelated reports in Mississippi. They were able to determine that it's surprising. It's typically found in Southeast Asia and Northern Australia, parts of Central and South America, sometimes Puerto Rico. It's fatal in 10 to 15% of those infected. It is under-recognized globally and not officially classified as a neglected tropical disease, but they ultimately put out a health alert. The CDC put out a health alert that for the first time that they've been able to validate this. And they say they don't know how long the bacteria has been in the environment and where else it may be found. They did indicate the statement from our spokesperson said that the modeling suggests the environmental conditions found in the Gulf state and Gulf coasts are conducive to the growth of this disease and concern. Extensive environmental sampling is to know how widespread it is. They ultimately issued a health alert network health advisory to warn physicians and public health officials consider this in patients who show the signs. Interestingly enough, the two people who they were able to link this to in southern Mississippi had not traveled outside the country, but seemed to be infected by the same strain from the Western Hemisphere. They were hospitalized with sepsis due to pneumonia, and these are known risk factors for the bacteria, which also include diabetes, chronic kidney disease, chronic lung disease, heavy alcohol use, and immunosuppressant therapy. Both patients recovered after antibiotic therapy, and with their permission, they went out and got samples from this. But the interesting part here is those who have a weakened immune system, those who are disabled due to the diabetes, kidney disease, chronic lung disease, alcohol use, kind of an unusual thing to bring to the table, but very interesting, very, very, very interesting to us. We thought we'd include it, not knowing who of your audience may live in that area or may have concerns, but we imagine that will make the national and international and probably statewide news.
Yeah.
As they try and get the info out. I imagine going out to the Center for Disease Control would also, and it's not here for me to give to you, but the Center for Disease Control in the United States would probably have more information for those who are interested or have concerns. Lastly, in the United States, reported recently, and they're concerned election officials urged to prepare for shortages.
Uh-oh.
So the supply chain has an effect on elections, and they are indicating that despite printing areas during the year's primaries, and there was a meeting in the last 48 hours of the National of State Election Directors in the United States. They came from 33 states, experts in election security, groups of elections, vendors. Election security experts told the directors to be prepared for the possibility of it affecting paper ballots, and it may take years to recover. Absolutely kind of crazy to take this long to recognize in our minds, but election officials met under heightened security. Met in Madison, Wisconsin, and urged to prepare for supply chain issues that could lead to shortages in paper used for everything from ballots to the I voted stickers. It's kind of a little unusual. And it may be that way for years to come. Again, the supply chain sparked by COVID and exacerbated by worldwide closures of factories in 2026, according to those security election officials. So
wow.
Very, very, very different. So you're up for your softball. Yeah, I think we're up for a softball.
I have here it comes. I have a kiddie level, maybe slightly, there's a little bit of sap on my glove when I throw this ball. So here's the thing. We know Russia, we know Ukraine, we know China, we know Taiwan. Who are our next three contenders for trying to take over some other place in this roundup? Because they're going to create a lot of, frontiers to have to put troops, which is going to bog NATO down. But walk me through our top five: Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan. Who are the other top three in this where they're going to try and take over, do a land grab?
I think right away will be North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a individual there that I think the world's been paying attention to, and goes back to the movie that he was satirized, called The Interview.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enough that his influence, once he was made aware of it, allowed them to, Sony Pictures, to take the movie out
Right.
of Europe.
Right.
So there are folks who feel very strongly that we're keeping a close eye with some of our new tools that we're working with. One of the Central American countries, depending on who they choose to partner with. We can look at Belarus if they don't get taken back into Russia. Maybe we'll look to squeeze the Baltic, Baltic states. Looking at Belarus, and again, looking at Mr. Putin's comments to Lukashenko, and we wonder, and it's not a very difficult game anymore to recognize Mr. Putin says, look to the left. We used to look to the left. Now we no longer look to the left. We look in the middle and up and down and to the right, because he's not doing anything to the left. There's a war from maybe the early 1950s or 1960s. As we see the convergence of countries bringing everything from missiles and tanks and planes and boats to the aid of Ukraine. North Korea, they threw a rocket in the ocean. United States threw a rocket in the ocean. I don't understand if that was just to show us that they could both throw a rocket in the ocean. Yeah, I think we get that. North Korea, I think, would be probably at the top of the list. That folks that just walked in.
And I mean, who would they go after? Would this be a North Korea versus South Korea? Would it be China helping North Korea to do something? What would be the extent of their action, to make their first move on the chessboard?
And again, it depends on what other pieces are in motion at that time. Sure, Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan is an interesting piece. I think we talked a little bit about last week, and I'm not trying to step around your question at all, but I think what we talk about sometimes is who's in play, who's actually what's going to tip the marker over to me. Here we have a two-hour phone conversation between the President of the United States and the leader of China. I can't imagine 2 hours on the phone with either of them in a
it is weird
manner.
Yeah.
I see how some of these folks have spoken, some of the comments they make and what they're reading from, and it's very unusual. It's just very unusual. Who else could we? You know, you can take almost all the. Do we see somebody coming after other countries? Do we see anybody taking a swing towards? You know, we had Russia 3-4 weeks ago talking about Alaska, taking back Alaska. I don't know if we've heard anything even maybe in 6 weeks, 8 weeks about Hawaiian Islands and Guam and Puerto Rico and Cuba, and you know, is anybody interested in those? And again, it comes back to what's the land grab game?
Right.
Because we were talking about land. We've got a high probability that I believe it's one of the African nations is now minting their own gold coins.
Wow.
In an attempt to save their nation and get them out there. So their inflation is just off the hook, and that's what they're trying to do. We looked at oil this week, and oil was right around 100. And some of these announcements started coming out regarding recession and inflation, and back up oil went to close well over 100 and a barrel. Conversation of 20 million barrels being sold out of the strategic reserve from the United States. And what are we replacing that with? And where's it going? So it's kind of like a little bit too early in the week, but on food security, we had Ukraine and Russia and a few others agree that they could move grain off of the port. They moved the grain. They're going to let you move the grain.
Mm-hmm.
And then within, 13 hours, they bombed the Port of Odessa. Right? And like, wait a minute. No, we said you could move the grain. We just didn't tell you where you would move it from to.
Mm.
So, okay. You know, I'm glad we shook hands on that one for 12 hours, and then we just used surface-to-surface rockets. So from the Navy and the Black Sea, they were sending rockets into Odessa. They're using the Su-35 fighters from air-to-surface rockets, and just did a lot of damage. And so when we come back to who's next, well, what do you got for me? What do you have that I want?
Right.
That I can physically take? Is it minerals? Is it land? Yeah, it could be land. It could be land. But there's got to be something there that somebody wants, and it's not the people. It's not the people. We're back up to large numbers again, and sadly, we talked about this in the past. I'll bring it up again. The tracking of children being separated from their families in all these countries. Who has that responsibility to try and unite those families when things settle down? People going to war, just not being told where their family members are. So when we think about people leaving a country because it's been flattened, well, we have people now walking in front of Ukraine grain harvesting equipment to identify mines in the soil before the harvester gets there. So the farmer and the harvesting equipment, which there are no parts for right now,
right,
aren't injured, killed, or that piece of equipment is useless. And this is at a time of war. I don't see anything happening from the Canadian side, but as we talked about last week, I think in detail, number of people crossing the southern United States border through the rivers, and a large number are not from the Central and South American countries. So who is coming into the country? And could it be a land grab somewhere here? We have no clue. No clue.
You know,
Absolutely no clue.
I look at this scenario, and to me, the likelies, you know, Russia to Ukraine, China to Taiwan. The next thing that I see is basically, and I think you're right, something happening with North Korea to South Korea, because South Korea, I mean, their shipbuilding is some of the best on earth. And then we begin the battle with where Japan is at. So the lines of Australia and Japan start to form that barrier situation where the US and Britain have to, like Britain has with their subs in Australia, started to kind of draw that line. But I see Russia and China somewhere getting along the line, Cuba and Venezuela onto their side, because that gets them some pieces on the map over on the other side. I don't know what the capability of you know, basically Africa and its multiple nations would be, but I know that this you know, if we, so let's say Russia, Ukraine, China goes to Taiwan, North to South Korea. I think the next one to be played with would essentially be the Iran-Iraq area getting bolstered to get on their side to finally go after Israel, and then probably somewhere in there, Africa, some nations there to go ahead and begin beating the drum against some of the NATO nations above them, Spain, France, Italy, and then probably, you know, Cuba and Venezuela as the crossover across the map. But maybe for next time, that would be an interesting thing to look into, is what would the timeline of buddy nations for this, you know, terrible situation be? Because I mean, it happens quickly. I noticed a bunch of them are Russia, China talking about a new reserve currency, even different than the yuan. And you know, to me, that is the foundation of the future red state against the NATO blue state in a future World War III action. In which case, you know, these other countries are not going to be utilizing the U.S. reserve currency, and their way of essentially funding that is by trading with certain nations who need oil, who need crops, who need production, who need human labor. And you know, Russia, China, India, Iran, Afghanistan, you know, those types of places, they have those options. I mean, even Kazakhstan would get brought into it. So I think it's going to be interesting, because the roadmap, I guess you would call it, to World War III is drawn through, in my opinion, the reserve currency, and defining how they can afford to fund this future war. Because you know, it's just like Bush back in the Iraq War situation, where he pulled, you know, 700 plus billion out of the bond situation of the Social Security Administration, and you know, like these wars have to be funded some way, and just upkeeping the military is usually a massive cost in itself. So then these leaders have to say, okay, well, where's the extra money going to come from? I think they're going to play the reserve currency game, cut the U.S. out, which will hurt the U.S. like nothing else, create their own U.S. currency, or create their own reserve currency, and then basically use that to fund their future war against the NATO nations.
Yeah, and we can also include the United Kingdom. We can Germany. We can include Saudi Arabia, India. But again, it comes down to exactly like you said, funding. The things that is kind of interesting is when you take out the second and third world countries, do they just get, I'm not going to say run over, but do they just get claimed? So we were talking about Haiti and Port-au-Prince last week, and they're in just crazy gang crisis. Government's having a real tough time, but it's economic. It started with an economic issue. Do we see Vietnam coming back into this, in Korea? Or will it all be just the entire Arabian Peninsula? Is going to indicate, hey, you know, are they all one? You know, the Middle East, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Sudan. How far does it go? So then we have Iran is Israeli issues, and Palestinian issues, and I shake your hand, and then I don't shake your hand, and then so I think when we talk about we talk about fiat currency and talk about currency and,
Yeah.
and where's it going to go? We take everything, Canada is struggling. And I think we have some interesting times coming up. We still have the longshoremen with on the ship longshoremen from Mexican border in San Diego, Los Angeles, all the way up to Bremerton, Washington, coming up on a month without a contract. They're still working at this time, but
Oh, wow.
how long? And now we're looking at a potential railroad strike nationwide and in the United States, and that's something that is so when we start looking at the resources, Germany was doing really well, and then they were silent and they didn't want to engage. Their leadership did not want to engage in picking sides on this war because they didn't want to lose their fuel supply through the Nord Stream 2 and 1, and it looks like it's happening anyway with cutbacks through the European Union bloc. And what have they decided? Hey, you know what? We're going to sell 100 tanks to Ukraine. And they're not going to be just any tanks. They're going to be the Panzer Halberts. And they're the meanest thing on 2 tracks.
Yeah.
And so they picked their lane. Hey, if they get paid $17 billion, I don't know how much of it came out of the Lend-Lease program, which is where the money goes out, and then they owe it back. But hey, I don't think this is resolving anytime soon. Hey, question on a separate note. Question came out of the White House briefing, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, U.S. They did not show or identify that we could hear the individual asking the question, but there was a European accent, if that makes sense. And the question to the new press secretary for the White House was, America lost interest in the war? And I think it's a question you had brought up previously. At least one of the shops recalled it. And we went back, and here we are today. And it actually came up from a reporter in the White House briefing. And remarkably, what I think has happened is because of the issues, and it's not from the White House, just our theory on it, just telling you where the question came up again. Our theory on it is between the economic state that Americans are in, between the concern for day-to-day living, determining whether you have enough money for fuel, take a family member to a medical facility, or if you're paying rent or the light bill, or any of these things. I think it's a little overwhelming for them for a lot of folks, especially folks that have, I don't want to say disabilities, but it's even harder for folks to remain engaged with a war that has effect on the United States and North America and other parts of the world. But for the most part, South Americans lost interest. I think they're not distracted. I think they're overwhelmed. I think they're overwhelmed with things on a day-to-day basis, most of them financial, industries that have never reopened, factories that have never reopened worldwide. But again, have they lost interest? I don't think it's a lack of interest. I think it's unusual and heartbreaking conditions for many people around the world. And for those that, as we've talked about previously, that are either on disability or are disabled, regardless of where they may live, it's not any less expensive.
Sure.
And it's you can call it inflation, gas crisis, food crisis. We'll speak next week about beef in the United States, following right up on the tail end of avian flu, bird flu that started back in March. There's a cattle crisis that's taking place, and just figuring out the final details. That's the domestic folks in out west. And then we have the raging pool of water, water coming out of the faucet in many parts of the United States. The problem with desalinization plants that they'd like to create. Most recently, I think it was earlier today, I'll put it out there because it's a little over 80%. They're talking about rerouting some of the Sacramento River in California to a 45-mile underground one tunnel that will carry the water from the Sacramento River, which is the largest in the state of California, directly to the aqueducts in Southern California. Wow, I don't know how long it would take
to dig
build
that.
a 45-foot. Well, maybe Elon will share his bore tool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even if they started in both directions, or several directions, using some of that massive tunnel boring equipment they use all over the world.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Wow. Jeez.
I don't know if I answered your question, but we'll do some homework on who you think the players may be and why. Again, depending on, you hate to say it, but where are we?
Right.
Red Dawn. Are they coming across the border? Is a Red Dawn prefix in the old movies? Somebody's waving no. Okay.
Right.
My group is one of the shop guys is yelling no. And again, a shout out real quick to Jacob on our team who took us to our final jump today. His team did a great job. One of our rising stars. Great job. Good job. So, thank you. I hope I answered your questions. I hope it's hopefully we got there. And again, we'll head back to boots on the ground, and that's changing dramatically as this new equipment rolls into the battle lines, into the battlefronts. When we see all of that equipment come in simultaneously, it's a game changer. Absolutely a game changer.
Excellent. Well, good, sir. That was an excellent update. There were so many things to cover there. I will catch up with you next week for another video. I would love to know where things are going with which nation is going to try for which land grab, or is it just a thing where they're going to cut off resources to some other nation that might need it? But thank you so much for giving us such an amazing update. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little all over, but we think we're on the right track. And again, your audience, you listen to something specific, by all means, reach out to us and do the best we can within the parameters of what we're able to do.
Perfect. Well, good, sir. You have a wonderful night, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Be safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So that was excellent, guys. That gave us an update. Some of the stuff you'll probably hear on the news literally tomorrow. So at the end of the day, that's just an incredible update. Guys, I want to thank you so much. It is 10:34. Basically, I have to do a little bit more work, kind of clear this giant pile of paperwork that's to my left, and then this giant box that's to my left as well, and then this other pile of paperwork right here. But at the end of that, I get to go to sleep. So I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful night, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for logging in. Thank you so much for checking this out. I'll catch you later. If you enjoyed the show, if there's parts of it that you loved, if there's parts of it you hated, that's fine. Please remember to leave a 5-star review because it helps me compete against those mega big box law firms. I'm a disability attorney. My name is Attorney Walter Hnot. I'm the most viewed disability attorney on YouTube at this point. Soon I will be the most subscribed to disability attorney. Yay. Awesome, but not important. Important thing is we got to figure out how to increase benefits for the disabled, retired, those are on Social Security benefits. And we got to figure out how to reduce these restrictions that are also applying to them. And maybe we can figure out how, the government can have a little bit of an audit and not be so sloppy with their spending. Yeah, maybe, Anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. Have an absolutely wonderful night, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.